think it needs to be differentiated here. For one side, on the one hand, the macroeconomic. On the other hand, you've got the real estate. In terms of macroeconomic, what can be observed, and that is really good news, is that Spain is coming out of trouble, has actually exited the crisis, and all the signs are really thumbs up for recovery on all ends. I think the most stressing factors were, well, one of the most stressing factors was labor and unemployment. And we know that there's not only a slight improvement, but there's a real turn of trend, and that's one of the deciding factors, I guess, for the recovery. You can also observe that local demand is increasing on the consumption end as well as on local investment ends of corporates, which both are leading indicators, especially when you know that Spain basically very much relied on exports all throughout the years of the crisis, while local demand was basically inexistent, and this really has turned around again. So these are, I think, some of those factors which really indicate that Spain is has come out of crisis. Nevertheless, this is, in my view, a turn of trends, but it's not really safe to say that this is already a mature and completely recovered market. Now, this is not what the yields suggest that we're observing in the investment market. The yields have given in incredibly, and that suggests that this is a very stable and secure market already. I guess no, this is really something that has been triggered by investment, by the money volumes that we've seen here on the charts this morning, and does not really reflect and correspond to what macroeconomically can be observed. Nevertheless, there is a trend that also suggests that a pickup of office space is going to increase, and obviously a decreasing or an improving labor market suggests expansion in the future, which means there will be more pickup, more demand, and a increase of rents. Right. So I guess it's very early in the cycle still. There's some that already fear, looking at the yields, that they've missed the train and it's too late to go into Spain, and this is not so much anti-cyclical anymore. I think it's definitely still anti-cyclical, but you need to look at some of the fundamentals which go beyond the yield, which is something we're probably going to discuss later on.
Great. Orson, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I think it's true that being optimistic, the people who bet on Spain and made assumptions 2-3 years ago on recovery, these assumptions are paying off now, and it's true that the macroeconomics are going with the investment. There is a recovery in consumption, which is driving a recovery in the rents, for example, in the retail sector. So I think it's a good story. Important. It's true that there's an image of very high yield compression, but as Fraser explained, it's true that in Spain there was a true renegotiation of the rent. So there is I think some potential increase in rents, which will make the real yield lower than it actually seems. And I think that what is good to question, and Christoph said, have people lost the train of Spain? As lawyers, we have an indirect view of the market because we just see it through our clients. But what we see is that the clients are still betting on Spain. They are still, even if the initial strategy of investment is not workable anymore, they try to change their targets. And I think there are still a lot of opportunities. So it's a cycle, or we are in a phase where it is, if you are a true long-term investor, or medium to long-term, because everyone says he's a long-term investor, and then it is a true trader. But if you have the capacity of holding on the asset without very strict windows of exit, I think it is a safe place to invest now.